If this hasn't already been done as a warm-up in class, or if you missed class, find the mean, the median, the mode, and the range of the data set listed. Pause it here if you need more time. Here are your solutions. Mean 13.9, median 13, mode 11, and range 10. If you struggled with any of those, make sure to ask for clarification in class. Our objective for 9.6 is to learn to create and interpret various types of graphs. Our essential question, how do I use proportions to interpret circle graphs and histograms? A double bar graph is one type of graph used to display and compare two sets of data. You can organize data using a frequency table by listing items according to the number of times the items occur. For example, here's a frequency table of the number of books read in 1 month by some boys and girls in grade 8. The number of books read is the first row going across, 0 to 5. Then it has the number of boys and the number of girls listed below each set of books. So there were 2 boys and 2 girls that did not read any books. There were 3 boys that read 1 book and 1 girl that read 1 book. The frequencies are the heights of the bars in the graph. Use a different color to represent each gender, or if you're doing something other than genders, use a different color to represent the 2 different bars. Boys are in blue, girls are in red. You can see the frequency goes up to 4 because that's the most number of boys or girls that read any amount of books. And then the books read goes across the horizontal axis. Let's use this to answer some questions. Did more boys or girls read exactly 2 books? So if we're looking at exactly 2 books, we're looking right here at the blue going up to 3 and the 2 going up to red. So for exactly 2 books, there were more boys. Did boys or girls read more books in a month? This only gives us the individual numbers, so we have to do a little bit of work. So we're going to go through and look at each category. Let's do boys first. So in the first category, we're looking at how many boys read books. This first category, nobody read and there were no books read. So that's a 0. In the second category, there were 3 boys that read 1 book. So that would be 3 books. In the second category, or third I guess, there were 3 boys that read 2 books. So that would be 6. There was 1 boy that read 3 books, so that's 3. No boys read 4 books, and there was 1 boy that read 5 books. So we would add those together. That's a 0, and that's a 0. So we have 3 plus 6 is 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17. So there were 17 books read by boys. Let's do girls. 0. 1 girl read 1 book. 2 girls read 2 books, so that's 4. 4 girls read 3 books, that's 12. 1 girl read 4 books, and no girls read 5. So we have 12 plus 4 is 16, plus 4 more is 20, 21. So did boys or girls read more books? In a month, girls did. How many more boys read 3 books than girls? Here's the category for 3 books. So if we eliminate these other numbers so we're not confused by them. In the third category, how many more boys read 3 books than girls? Well, boys, there was 1 boy and there were 4 girls. So does this question make sense? How many more boys read 3 books than girls? That would be 0. Because this question is being asked in an opposite way. Girls read more books, so there's not a number to answer that question. So make sure you always read carefully. A double line graph is used to show how 2 related sets of data change over time. Make a double line graph of the given data. Use the graph to estimate the number of CDs and DVDs sold in 2003. So we're going to graph this data, and we're going to look for information from 2003, which is not one of the years listed, but it falls between 2002 and 2004. So we have the years, CDs sold, and DVDs sold. So what a double line graph would look like, the years would be the horizontal axis, the number sold of either one would be on the vertical axis, and then we do two different lines plotting the CD points and connecting the dots, and plotting the DVD points and connecting the dots. So if we're looking specifically at 2003, we're going to be looking at this middle hash mark halfway between. So if we kind of make a connection, we do some rough estimating. We can see this is about halfway between 3,000 and 4,000. This is just a little over 5,000. So if we wanted to put some numbers there, we'd say about 5,250 CDs and about 3,500 DVDs were sold in 2003. The 250 came from looking like it's about a fourth of the way up to 6,000. Let's use this graph to answer a few more questions. About how many CDs and DVDs were sold total in 2001? So if we look at 2001, which would be between 2000 and 2002, and we go up, see where we intersect. So for DVDs, we look like we're at about 2,000. And for DVDs, we're close to 4,000. Depending on how accurate you draw my line, we're pretty close to 4,000 there. And so we add those together, we would assume about 6,000 combined were sold in 2001. In what 2-year interval was there the greatest growth in sales for DVDs? So now we're just looking at the purple graph. So we can see some growth from just under 1,000 to 1,000. We see growth from 1,000 to 3,000, and then from 3,000 to 4,000. So this was about 1,000 growth. This was a 2,000 growth, and this was less than 1,000 growth. So our biggest interval would be the 2,000, which went from 2,000 to 2002. Third question, in what year were the highest amount of CDs sold? So let's take a look at the CDs. Now we're looking at the red. In what year were the highest amount of CDs sold? So we look at where the highest number is. That would be here, and that would match up with 2004. A histogram is a bar graph that shows the frequency of data within equal intervals. Jimmy surveyed 12 children to find out how much money they received from the Tooth Fairy. Use the data to make a histogram. So we look at these different dollar amounts, and what we try to do is we group them. So instead of graphing each number individually, we make the intervals that'll give us the information we want, but gathered a little bit more tightly. So we're going to make a frequency table with intervals of $1. Here's what that'll look like. We have our money and we have our frequency. Frequency is how many. So we're going to go from 0 to 99 cents. The reason we're going to do that is because we can't overlap our intervals. We can't have 99 cents in the next interval as well. So now we jump to $1 to $1.99. Then 2 to $2.99, 3 to $3.99. The frequencies come from how many there are in each category. So from 0 to 99 cents, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. From 1 to $1.99, we have 1, 2, 3. There's 2 in the $2 to $2.99 interval, and there's 3 in the $3 to $3.99 interval. We don't have to go any further because we have included the largest number. Even though the largest number was 350, we still made sure our interval went all the way up equal spacing. Little helpful hint, a histogram is different than a bar graph. There are no spaces between the bars. So you'll notice, and this should really just connect all the way over. So imagine that's all the way to the end there. We have our intervals fairly equally spaced out, no gaps in between, and then we have our frequency. So there were 4 numbers in this first interval, so it goes up to 4. Then there were 3, 2, and then it went back to 3. So let's answer some questions from this. What is the interval used in the histogram? Well, we already looked at that. The interval would be $1. And if you're looking, well, 0 to 99 cents, think about including 0 in that. That's a full dollar interval. What interval of money was given most frequently? That'd be the one that's the tallest, and that would be 0 to 99 cents. And how many times did the Tooth Fairy give away $1 to $1.99? That would be the frequency that matches up. That would be 3. Let's look at just one more example of a histogram, just so we have a good picture. Tanya surveyed 14 children at an after-school daycare to find out how many hours they spend there. Use the data to make a histogram. So that's the hours and minutes. We're using 30-minute intervals, so you can again see after 30 minutes it goes to 31. After then a minute it goes to, or an hour, excuse me, an hour and 1 minute. So we always have to increase by 1. There are no spaces. Everything's included. Notice how the bars are connected. The intervals are continuous but not overlapping, and everything is labeled. Make sure your notes are filled out completely. Write the questions on the left-hand side and review your notes, then complete the summary before class.